patterns of movement matter. Matter. The material plane is organized in patterns of movement. Compounds combine in ways that are fixed and then organized in rhythms that contain motion. The same molecular compounds can organize in a variety of ways. And within these ways of organizing, there is motion, even amidst what manifest as still objects. However, this motion may be so consistent that solid objects are created in your presence. The rhythms of motion cannot be understood unless you firmly rest amidst the understanding that the patterns that generate molecular organization are initiated spiritually. Spiritual rhythms directly relate to Gaia's rhythms. Thus, as long as Gaia plays certain songs consistently, you experience consistencies in the material plane that matter. The matter that you experience can be unquestioned because it literally does not change its relationship to you. However, imagine that every 5 seconds, someone moves a pillow towards you. When they move the pillow towards you, you touch it. So every time it moves towards you, you touch it, and in between, you turn away. Speed this up. Every second, someone moves it towards you and then pulls it away, and then moves it towards you and pulls it away. If you only touch it when it's moved towards you, and if you never look at it at any other time, you will experience that it is always there. This is closer to how the material plane works. You experience solid objects because the rhythm of the motion within what makes them solid is so consistent that it is always present when you interact with it. To understand how to change solid objects, you first have to understand that they are already changing. They are simply changing in cyclical rhythms that enable you to interact with them consistently. The magic that you can bring into such creations is to generate change within the patterns of rhythmic motion that already exist. You must comprehend that you are changing rhythms of motion, not stillness itself. Stillness itself would actually manifest as absolute cold. This is not where you live. You live in rhythmic presence, and yet this rhythmic presence is consistent. To change it, you must generate inconsistencies amidst the patterns that are so fundamental that those patterns cannot be maintained. In order to generate these inconsistencies, you must understand that you are essentially generating increased motion. This increased motion comes from energy that is latent within the patterns of movement. Thus, the motion exists already. However, you are redirecting it out of loops of spirit into more dramatic motion of rhythm of molecule. Why does this matter? For you to learn how to change yourself, you must learn to identify patterns within yourself that seem solid. The patterns that seem solid to you are not solid. They seem to be the same, and yet they are actually composed of loops of spiritual rhythm. These loops are not apparent to you because you only interact with them at the same moment in their cycle when they appear in the same place. Because you are composed of matter as well, you can imagine touching an object where your rhythm and the object's rhythm always stop and connect at the same point. And yet both you and the object, both your body and the object, contain cyclical motion. This cyclical motion is latent power. In order to access it, you first must believe it's here. Next, you heat it up. In order to heat it up, you begin first with the song. If you imagine bringing heat from an external presence, you would not be able to unleash the energy that is inherent within these cycles. You must bring the spiritual song that transforms the song that is currently organizing the matter. And in order to do this, you must believe that it is the spiritual song of the material object that is actually holding that object together. For this to be a crucial step, you must actually identify an object as one thing. Objects do not inherently know themselves as one thing. Because they are more identified with the song than with their material presence, they know themselves as simply an extension of the song. When you bring this object into a coherence that knows it as one thing, it changes. Thus, by holding a stone and calling it a stone, it becomes a more unique and independent object than it was before you saw it. Next, you change the song. In order to understand how to change the song, you first must recognize the simplest of changes. Spin it. Spin it. In order to spin a song, you must participate in repeating any element of the song you come into contact with. And the way to do this is simple. See the object, and then repeat a rhythmic beat that enables you to focus more easily on the object. At first, this will be vague. It will be difficult for you to recognize what actually enables a closer focus and what distances you. Practice will change this. You hold the stone in front of you. You hold the stone in front of you. Then you feel a rhythm that allows you to move up and down with your hand. Allow the rhythm to change and simply negotiate preference. Do you enjoy moving up and down more or less? Do you enjoy moving faster or slower? Find the rhythm that works well with this stone and feel what you feel. As you tune in to the song of the stone will be grateful. The gratitude of the stone that you are amplifying its song will feel good to you. This is the first key. The next is quite similar. Put the stone on the table in front of you. Watch it. You will notice a change in your focus. It may be more difficult to grasp than when you actively hold the stone. However, it is just as present. As you watch it, you will be more able to focus on it and less able to focus on it. In order to identify whether you are getting closer to the song, watch for distractions within your mind. The more you become distracted, the less you are tuning into the song. As you recognize focus enhancing, begin to imagine the stone spinning. This spin is not something you can control at first. It will be in direct relationship to the actual song of the stone. Thus, you are not actively spinning the stone. You are enabling the stone to spin. It wants this. The stone wants the freedom to spin because it is an affirmation of its unique independence. In many ways, you are supporting the stone in giving birth to the idea of itself as something. The joy it feels with this recognition can most accurately be expressed in a spin. Thus, by hearing the song of the stone and seeing it independently, you enable it to spin as an expression of its joy. To the stone, spinning is dancing to the unique rhythm of the song. It knows itself as celebrating the song that it has always known as itself. In many ways, this is akin to a child celebrating the magnificent beauty of their parent. This will be one of the most accurate ways you can relate to the magic inherent. And within this magic is a fire. The fire is soul. Soul is the energy of the sun. The core of the sun is fire. And yet, the nucleus that is fire is only the nucleus of the sun itself. All of this exists within the sun. The sun knows itself as extending well beyond what you know of as all of the planets. The sun knows itself as something much bigger than the fire at its heart. The nucleus gives us the densest heat and is present within everything else. As you witness a unique object and recognize it as existing within the sun, it will contain this knowledge more effectively than you will. The stone does not have dramatic ideas about what is and is not. The stone feels its presence within the bubble of the sun. The stone knows itself. By witnessing it, you amplify this awareness. By supporting it in spinning, you activate this awareness on a molecular level. Thus, you hear the song of the stone. The song contains the awareness of its presence within the sun. This awareness itself brings heat. It brings heat from the core of the stone. And this heat turns into the energy that enables the stone to spin.